How are we, guys?
Hey, Simon.
How are you, Alicia? Righto. Shoot.
Simon, how's Clayton Oliver? Will he? I think he might make the trip, but will he play?
Yeah, he's going to make the trip, but he's not going to play. Clayton's someone that's very competitive, very determined. He's doing everything he can to get himself up, but it's just not worth the risk at the moment. He's had the surgery. He's in a really good spot, but we're going to give him the week off. But he's going to make the trip. He's going to come and support and help out the coaches, but he won't be playing.
Was it more the wound from the surgery rather than the kind of actual thumb joint itself, or can you go into any bit more detail about that?
Oh, well, it's just a whole combination of that. It's, an advice from the doctors and the surgeon that the best course of action is to take a little bit longer with him, and that's what we'll listen to. It's important that we listen to the right people, and they've said that the wound will heal best and the thumb will be in the best place in a bit longer period of time. So he'll miss this week, but he'll be right the following week.
I guess it says a bit about Clayton that he's willing to make the trip up and just support the group while he's obviously not going to play.
Oh yeah, Claz, he's been high maintenance the first few days. He really wants to play and he wants to get himself up and he wants to help the team. I've never seen a player have a will to win like Clayton, and that's what makes him so special, and that's what makes him a great teammate. So, but the best course of action for him is to mitigate the risk, make sure we get it right, make sure we service him the best way, and let it heal properly, and he'll be ready to go the week after.
A bit of a disappointing result down in Geelong last week. What did you learn from that game, and how do you go about bouncing back against Port?
I think you always learn a lot against Geelong. They're a high quality team and they test out a lot of things in your game, and there's no question that we got a real touch up around stoppage and clearance, and we ended up having to deal with a lot of territory loss against a really high quality team on a really hard deck to get it out of your back half. So we will learn a lot from that game. We've got some work to do in a whole range of different areas, but we feel like we're still progressing in the right way, but the challenge is right before us as a footy club. We sit in a really strong foundation of where we sit within the AFL ladder, but we've got a lot of work to do and a lot of improvement to do, and the challenge is right before our playing group and our football department.
Is that an exciting opportunity that you do have a lot of improvement left in you for the rest of the season? Oh,
it's incredibly exciting. I think what we're seeing is how tighter competition we have, and the challenge for every team, and we're no different, is you've got to find ways to improve, and we're gathering information in the last 4 to 6 weeks that is going to really propel our game forward. We feel like we've still got a lot of growth in us. We feel like we've got a lot of improvement in a whole range of different areas, but the challenge is right before us as a footy club to do it, and the time's now. 6 weeks out, we've got to find a way to improve and set our game up the best way possible to win at the right time of the year, and it starts this week against Port Adelaide.
And a lot has changed since you played Port Adelaide last time. I think you beat them pretty comfortably over there. What sort of challenges do they present this weekend?
Yeah, look, they're playing some really good footy. They're 7-3 in the last 10 weeks. They're a completely different side. They're playing a completely different style to what we played earlier in the year. They're playing a very fast style of footy, very exciting brand of footy. And their good players are playing some really strong footy. So they're going to test us in a whole range of different areas, but they're a great challenge at the moment for us.
Simon, one of those whoever that was, areas of improvement perhaps is in the forward line. Do you need to get a little bit more creative this week? I don't know whether Maxi might maybe spend more time in the forward line or...
Yeah, it's one of those things. We made some adjustments 3 weeks ago, and I think scores per entry in the last 3 weeks has been, we're 5th on the ladder, but it's still an area that we're continuing to look at, improve on. But last week was a little bit more challenging. We just didn't get the supply that we needed, but we are continuing to work on cohesion and connection. There's no doubt about that, and that is definitely an option of Gorney playing a little bit more time forward. But we'll make a few little adjustments again. We're learning more and more about our forward line group in the last month, and we feel like we're starting to make some inroads, albeit not quite on the scoreboard just yet.
Do you get a chance to look at Max a bit more forward this week, given sort of Port Adelaide's ruck situation, given Lysette's not back and they've had Finlayson as sort of their main ruck? Does that give you a chance to maybe trial it a bit more than other weeks?
Not really. We'll look at it from a a quarter-to-quarter thing for us where we need Max and where we need some dominance, and whether that's in the forward line or in the middle, we'll take what we can get. We've got enormous confidence in both Luke Jackson and Max Gawn to deliver us what we need to in the ruck. So we'll make that assessment on game day, but first and foremost, we need to get those two guys really being dominant aerial players again in our game, and get them back to some really good form that they had 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Obviously, Bailey Fritsch had a really breakout year last year, dominated the grand final. What have you said to someone like, have you challenged sort of him and perhaps Cosy Pickett as well, who maybe hasn't had the impact this year that they've had last year? Have you put it back on those guys, and is there a reason why maybe they're not quite as connected as they are this year as they were last year?
Yeah, look, I think our forward line in the last sort of 6 weeks hasn't been the easiest place to play. And those guys will continue to look to find their best form. We're working really closely with both those guys to get themselves back to their best form, and you need your better players, especially the better players in the forward half of the ground, to have enormous impact, and those two guys are working incredibly hard. We challenge our players consistently around what that looks like and make sure their strengths, but we also take responsibility as a coaching group, are we giving them the best opportunity for those strengths to thrive, and we own that together. So those two guys are really keen to put their best foot forward this week and get themselves back in some really good form.
And you mentioned that obviously Clayton this week. Who steps up in the midfield there? Obviously, you've got Christian Petrarca who played. His form has been really good the last few weeks, but he's sort of been floating forward in the scoreboard. Does he take more of an onus on clearance with Jack Viney? Who steps up there?
Oh, you're not going to replace Clayton Oliver. So I put that out there right from the start. He's a very unique player, but what we are going to do is we're going to share the load through the middle of the ground, and it's an enormous challenge for our midfield group as a whole to step up together as one, share the load, be really connected and cohesive around the footy, in a really challenging part of the game. So we're going to share that load, and guys will have multiple different roles throughout that area of the ground to try and cover for the loss of Clayton.
And just last one from me, Simon. It was about this time last year when you went through a bit of a lull, lost a few games, and then really rose and lifted your level, and it reached the crescendo, obviously, on grand final day. Do you look back to last year and maybe remind the guys that, it is a roller coaster of a season, and perhaps, what we did last year can be a bit of a pattern to what a framework of what you did this year?
Yeah, without question. We know that footy is a roller coaster. We know there's going to be times in the season when you're not quite at your best. That's what AFL footy is. That's why it's a challenge. But the important thing now, and the challenge sits right before us as a footy club, and I've said this a couple of times already today, but the challenge sits right now for us to get ourselves going. There's 6 weeks to go in this season, and we get an opportunity to try and get back to playing our best footy and set ourselves up in the best way. And that's the challenge that's before myself as a coach, our coaching group and our playing group, to be able to do that. And that's exciting. That's exciting for us as a club, and we're looking forward to that challenge because the time's now.
And I guess continuing on that point, Simon, is it a bit frustrating that you have to go to Alice Springs to play this game as a home game when you're trying to get some consistency and form back in the side, particularly considering you haven't beaten Port Adelaide in Alice Springs? Not
one bit. We've embraced Alice Springs, for the last 9 years. We feel like it has become a bit of a home ground advantage for us, although we have lost to Port Adelaide up there before. But we embrace Alice Springs, we embrace the ground. We think it is a home ground for us, and we'll go up there with that mindset.
Last one, guys.
All good?
Actually, Simon, just before you go, Simon, when Buddy Franklin gets mentioned and Tim's contract talks, I guess everyone hears cricket. I mean, would Melbourne be interested in that? And I guess the fact that every club would probably be asking themselves the question, can we fit someone like that on our list for one or 2 years?
Geez, as a footy fan, I'd love to have him. He's my favourite player of all time. But we don't, we haven't even thought about it. And we're not going to talk about players from other clubs. But, from a footy purist perspective, I love Buddy Franklin. I love what he gives our game, and we need him in our game. And I'd love to see him continue playing. Thanks, guys.